If you're the type of person who enjoys collecting passive income every single month, then this video is for you, because we're about to break down 6 dividend ETFs or exchange traded funds that do exactly that, paying a dividend every month, meaning more cash in your pocket, or better yet, if you actually choose to reinvest the dividends, more firepower to help you achieve your financial freedom goals exponentially faster. So, are you ready? Now, chances are you fall into one of two camps as a dividend investor. The first being an investor striving for financial freedom and seeking to drip your dividends, reinvest the dividends, back into your investments. That ultimately expedites the time that it actually takes to hit your financial freedom goals by rolling a dividend snowball. And the second being the investor who has ultimately worked hard, invested well over time, and is now up for retirement and simply seeking passive income in order to enjoy retirement. Of course, there's also the investor out there who is just getting started, really has no idea where to fall, and they've somehow landed on this video. Either way, before we dive in, let me know which camp you actually reside in and comment down below on why exactly you're seeking monthly passive income. Moreover, depending on the camp that you fall into, stay tuned, because I'm actually going to share a very hard truth that some of you may not necessarily want to hear, but again, it's the truth about dividend investing. So enough talking now, let's get to it with these ETFs, with Amplify's Enhanced Dividend Income ETF, ticker symbol DIVO, up first, which invests into the S&P 500 companies but generates the vast majority of income not only through growth of the dividends themselves but option premiums as well, which means we actually won't see dozens upon dozens of holdings within this ETF, as the call option strategy doesn't call for volume and holdings. A matter of fact, there's only 38 total holdings within this ETF. The top 10 come down to United Health, Apple, Procter & Gamble, Visa, Home Depot, Caterpillar, Amgen, Microsoft, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs, with a solid spread across sectors despite the holdings count there, with a large slice of the pie in financials coming in at 19.7% of the fund's weight, before tapping into healthcare at 15.4%, another 15.4% worth of the pie in tech, before covering industrials at 12.7%, consumer discretionary at 12.6%. Now, Divo has a 1.98% dividend yield and an expense ratio coming in at 0.56%, which means you're going to pay a hefty sum of $56 per $10,000 invested annually. But performance-wise, if this fund suits your needs, perhaps that expense ratio doesn't really matter. Now, if we invested $10,000 10 years ago, that would have resulted in an additional $12,694.21, hitting your account more than doubling your money. However, this is actually one of the lowest performers on today's list, so let's keep on rocking and rolling and cover the Invesco S&P 500 Low Volatility ETF, ticker symbol SPLV, which right there in the name you can probably already tell this one may be a solid choice for a retiree or someone who really doesn't fare too well in market volatility. But nonetheless, this ETF invests at least 90% of its total assets in the securities that comprise the S&P index and consists of 100 securities with the lowest realized volatility over the past 12 months. Now, in other words, we're talking about eliminating as much risk as possible but still capturing reward. Now, in terms of your exposure, we're to be talking about financials coming in at 18.7% of the fund's weight, consumer staples at 18.6%, industrials at 17.4%, as well as utilities and healthcare coming in at 14.2% and 9.9% respectively. Meaning, we have the top 10 holdings that break down to Berkshire Hathaway, Republic Services, Coca-Cola, Colgate, Walmart, Marsh & McLennan, T-Mobile, Procter & Gamble, Cencora, and TJX companies, which, as you can tell, are companies that actually all meet Buffett's criteria for the most part. Now, in terms of performance, we'd be talking about a $10,000 investment made 10 years ago, amassing to over $25,000, coming in at $25,007.17, with a monthly dividend being received at a 1.88% yield, while only costing you about $25 per $10,000 invested annually, given that management fee at 0.25%. However, there's also the Wisdom Tree US Large Cap Dividend Fund, ticker symbol DLN, which has gained a lot of popularity rather recently amongst dividend investors, which is going to grant you a higher yield from the previous ETFs that I already mentioned. Now, this dividend yield is coming in at 2.38%, and overall a safe bet, given we could see that it was simply designed to track the investment results of dividend-paying large cap companies within the US equity market. So we're going to discover a pretty nice spread across sectors, most of the weighting coming in with tech at 18.5%, before spreading into financials at 16.7%, consumer consumer staples at 13.6%, healthcare at 13.4%, and industrials at 8.5%, which results in the top 10 holdings breaking down into a diversified bunch, coming down to Apple and Microsoft as the top 2, before we see JP Morgan and ExxonMobil, AbbVie, Johnson & Johnson, Broadcom, Procter & Gamble, Nvidia, and Coca-Cola. Now, with such a solid mixed bag of holdings, a $10,000 investment made into this ETF 10 years ago would have amassed to $27,148.24, and all for the very low cost of just $28 per $10,000 invested annually, given that expense ratio at 0.28%. Now, investors, we still have 3 more ETFs to go and one truth bomb to cover. If you're a dividend investor out there, you have to come to understand it. But before I get to all of that, please, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, join me now. Help me get this number down from 71% of you watching not subscribed down to 50%, which is my goal. And then you have my word and commitment to only make more and better content for all of you as this channel grows. And more importantly, if you're gaining value from this video, I want you to go ahead and tap on that thumbs up button. That just keys me in to make more videos just like this. With that out of the way, we're going to get back to it with a State Street Global ETF here, the SPDR Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF Trust, ticker symbol DIA, which it was created with the Dow Jones Index in mind. And given the Dow is the oldest continuous barometer of the US stock market, we are looking at another very safe and stable player. But nonetheless, this ETF simply seeks to track and provide investment results that correspond, generally speaking, to the price and yield performance of the Dow Jones Industrial Average before all fees and expenses. That just means we're getting exposure to about 30 holdings altogether, with financials covered, which make up about 23% worth of the fund's weight, before we're tapping into healthcare and tech at 19.6% and 18.4% respectively, as well as consumer discretionary at 14.4% and industrials at 13.7%. Now, as for the top 10 holdings, we're going to get a large chunk in United Health as well as Goldman Sachs as the top 2 holdings, with Microsoft, Home Depot, Amgen, Caterpillar, McDonald's, a personal favorite of mine with Visa, Salesforce, and American Express, which all work together to deliver returns on a monthly basis to all of you, with a dividend yield coming in at 1.72%, but a total return basis here, if we invested $10,000 10 years ago, would have brought in a whopping $19,857.88, just about tripling your principal, all for the low cost of $16 per $10,000 invested annually, with that management fee coming in at 0.16%. But if you're really looking or in need of monthly cash flow, I want to direct your attention to 2 option-oriented ETFs that have performed considerably well, though they lack the historical evidence given they were only recently established. The first is the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF, ticker symbol JEPI, which seeks to deliver monthly distributable income and equity market exposure with less volatility while using call options to boost the yield and monthly cash flow for you, talking about a dividend yield at 6.4%, and that's surely going to help you boost your monthly income. Now, of course, that income doesn't come without a management fee, which comes in a tad higher than some of the other funds mentioned today at 0.35%, meaning a $10,000 investment or $10,000 invested in this fund annually is $35 worth of a fee. But heck, as the fund invests across sectors like technology, making up 14% worth of the fund's weight, 13.8% outside of these sectors, 13.5% in healthcare, 12.5% in financials, and 11.5% in industrials, with the top 10 holdings working out to Progressive, Southern Company, Trend Technologies, AbbVie, Meta, MasterCard, Intuit, Amazon, and Coca-Cola. It surely delivers. Performance-wise, a $10,000 investment invested into JEPI since the date of inception back in 2020 would have already returned an extra $6,435.07 to you. However, there's an alternative fund to JEPI, which is really like its sister fund, just entirely tech-oriented, which is JP Morgan's NASDAQ Equity Premium Income ETF, ticker symbol JEPQ, with the key word there being NASDAQ. So in other words, the strategy remains the exact same, with the use of call options to generate monthly distributions. However, with the tech orientation and all the tech exposure, there's going to be more bang for your buck. And in my personal opinion, with tech just being the future, I think it's a smarter way to go over time. Nonetheless, we're talking about sector exposure, obviously predominantly in tech, at nearly 40% worth of the fund's weight, 17.7% in other outside of these sectors, 12.9% in consumer services, 10.6% 6.6% in consumer discretionary, and 5.7% in healthcare, which brings us to 100 total holdings, yet with the top 10 breaking down to Apple and Microsoft as well as Nvidia, before we get into Meta, Amazon, Alphabet. So there's all the Mag 7 players there before tapping into Broadcom and Tesla. Now, all in all here, this fund will also deliver for you. As we could see, having thrown in $10,000 into this fund just at the date of inception a couple years back would have resulted in $3,632.74 coming back to you, all for the low cost of $35 on an annual basis of an investment of $10,000 thanks to the management fee at 0.35%. However, this dividend yield is what gets me at a jaw-dropping 9.91%. Now, as for the one truth that we all may not want to face as dividend investors, well, investing is all about total return. So if you're in your early 20s or 30s or the alike, you may want to redirect your attention to more growth-oriented investments, because at the end of the day, coming from a true dividend investor fanatic, dividends aren't everything. You heard me, dividends aren't everything. It's all about return on investment. However, I now want to know your take on these dividend ETFs, if you're invested in them, or if you have better dividend ETFs in mind that pay on a monthly basis. Drop all of your thoughts down in a comment below. Click right here for more insights now. But before you go, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.